Welcome to Slim Nation's One-on-One podcast with conversations featuring the host, James Slim Overton.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Slim Nations 101's podcast. I'm Slim Overton, and I'm here with a special guest, a recurring guest, and it's special as well, Garry Harris. And you've seen him here before, and you can see all his credentials running across our ticker there. But no introduction as far as that is concerned is needed. But we're glad to have him here, and we have agreed to have Garry on here, at least once a month, and maybe more often than that. But just to talk about the climate and make sure we're up to date with what's going on. He's very busy in that realm as far as dealing with the climate from here to Atlanta and other different places, and he'll tell you about that. But we want to kind of focus a little bit today on the climate and how it's going to affect or already is affecting our present generation and our next generation, especially our next generation. And we all have children and grandchildren, and I have a granddaughter that's 5, and I'm concerned about her future as far as the climate is concerned. And we can see a lot of things going on that might uh, damage that, but it's a lot of things we can do preventatively if we just pay attention to the signs. So Gary's here to talk a little bit about that. But good morning, Garry. How you doing?
Hey.
Yes,
Fired up, ready to go. Thanks for
fired up and ready to go every
doing
time. And we
Woo!
appreciate you always agreeing to come
Yeah.
on here and talk to me. You're just like a regular, and I really appreciate the conversations we have and the information that you share. So if you want to start, of course, the focus is on our next generation, but start by telling us what's going on with you now. Because when I look at your Facebook page, you're always somewhere. It's always something going on, and people need to know that it's an ongoing process of people, scientists, and people that are uh, into the climate or preserving or getting that information out. It's an
Yeah.
ongoing thing where it's always different conferences and things like that. So tell us about what's going on now with some of the groups that you're involved with.
Oh man, but first and foremost, you know, it's about climate action now. And climate action now. And you know what? It's some really exciting stuff going on out there these days. You know, with us, but also the federal government as well. Yesterday, they announced the climate action corps and such. And this is where they're going to be investing in our youth to ensure that they're part of uh, a, a a large national cadre around clean energy, around climate. President Biden announced it on yesterday, investing millions of dollars into the next generation in a number of ways and such. And we've been playing in that space for a long time in terms of youth and climate, and moving them towards the types of job opportunities and being the scientists and engineers tomorrow to help mitigate these climate aspects. But my own personal story, born right here in Cavalier Manor and such. And going to Manor High School. I remember when I was in the fifth grade, and my father, who had worked in the shipyards here in Portsmouth, helped me out with the science project, and uh, that science project uh, what came out of something what we call a World Book Encyclopedia. Back in the day, we didn't have anything like Google or internet, stuff like that. We just had the World Book. So what happened was uh, I I put down the basketball and ran inside the house, and we had these brand new encyclopedias, and pulled off the Book of R, and opened it up and ripped out a page, and it was about radioactivity and transforming plutonium into lead and such. And I used Christmas lights to amplify a science project and everything like that. And
Mhm.
boom, won first place, you know? So,
Wow.
so yeah, back in the day, right here at, was that Lakeview? Yeah, Lakeview. And
So
so,
was that's something that getting involved with that and getting that first place, was that something that really encouraged you or
oh,
to stay that route? Because
oh,
we do a lot of things in our youth, and we end up going different directions. But I guess getting that recognition probably just put you on track to what you're doing
oh,
today.
absolutely, absolutely. It was a catalytic moment in time. Great teachers at Lakeview, great teachers all over in Portsmouth and such, but
Mm-hmm.
they really encouraged me to get into science. And while my father worked at the shipyards and such, and as a ele- electrician, he didn't have the knowledge, but he had the spirit. He had the encouragement. He
Hmm.
had the know it all to lift up his son via helping him in science. So he would go out and buy all the hardwares and stuff and that sort of thing. And I would tear up the encyclopedias, looking for climate things and energy things like that. But yeah, won first place. And then from there, it was just in high school and then things like that. But yeah, won first place.
Hmm.
Right. And it was like that, graduating from UVA in the energy field and going to corporate America and such. But also when I was at UVA, Pledge and Fraternity, it was all about community service. So later on, I combined the community with the energy, with with the sustainability stuff and really built a career around it. Really built a great nonprofit around it, and we're doing all kinds of stuff in this space. And for us, it's about making a more just, equitable, and resilient world for all. Example on yesterday with the University of Michigan. We launched programming around energy justice. So we have a group of students there doing projects that will affect our community and make our homes more energy efficient and move us towards energy democracy as well. Later on in the day, got with a group of students at Tufts University in New Hampshire, and got them going on projects as well that will help us here in our community, around climate. And then way in the evening as well, got with some students at Columbia University, an Ivy League school, and bringing them here to Portsmouth as well. And they're going to help us with blackouts and brownouts, that could affect our community and make our community more resilient, such that if those things were to occur, how can we cope with the lack of power, electricity, which flows through everything, communications and refrigeration and automobiles, etc., etc. So every day, all day long, there's a new challenge for us. There's a new opportunity for us to move people forward in this space, particularly our young people. Young people. And again, on yesterday, the president announced a brand new initiative that we're so excited about. Uh, uh, the Biden Harris administration launches the America Climate Corps to train young people, in clean energy conservation, climate resilient skills, create good paying jobs, and tackle the climate crisis. Wow, and that was with a stroke of the pen from the president of the United States yesterday, putting this executive order in place. And I'm just paraphrasing here. He's saying since taking office, the President Biden has delivered on the most ambitious climate and clean energy, conservation, and environmental justice agenda in the history of the country, signing into law the largest investment in climate action ever. With more than 21 million acres of public lands and water, and advancing the Justice 40 initiative, which directs 40% of the benefits from key federal investments in disadvantaged communities. And so, as part of this, he's launching this new America Climate Corps, and it's guess what? It's all about our youth. It's all about getting our youth in this wonderful uh, arena of climate and clean energy and sustainability. And further, that the White House said that the American Climate Course was focused on equity and environmental justice and prioritizing communities traditionally left behind, like ours right here in Cavalier Manor, including energy communities that powered our nation for generations and such, leveraging the talents of all members of society and prioritizing projects that will help us meet the administration's Justice 40 goals. In addition, President Biden is calling upon tribal and state and local governments like ours here in Portsmouth and labor unions that work right here in Hampton Roads and nonprofits and allies and private sector and philanthropy to collaborate with the federal government to expand skill-based training partnerships to ensure our nation has a workforce necessary to meet the climate goals and such. And then quickly here, it goes on to talk about first thing out of the bat to train young people in these clean energy, conservation, and climate-related jobs and such. And there'll be a bunch of initiatives around again, making sure our young people are in these pipelines and such, and headed towards clean energy jobs like those around tidal energy or around offshore wind or around small nuclear reactors or around hydrogen in these emerging technologies, electric vehicles. The Investment Reduction Act has created 87,000 jobs since its enactment last year, in 1 year. 87,000 jobs and such.
Mhm.
And 50,000 of those went to electric vehicles. So not only are we looking at the climate, but also issues around transportation as well. And also what's happening is, in order to get our young people into these jobs, is that they're going to coordinate recruitment across federal programs. Check that out. So when a young person, who's graduating out of college or even out of high school, for instance, and they want to go into the federal sector, this new American Climate Corps is going to launch a dedicated Climate Course recruitment website as well, where participants can learn more about how to apply for opportunities in their communities and organizations and can learn how to work with the American Climate Corps members. Moreover, to ensure that federal agencies are working together to implement the American Climate Corps, the Department of Labor, the Department of Interior, Department of Agriculture, NOAA, Department of Energy will sign a memorandum of understanding to formalize the new initiative, and AmeriCorps will sign up as well. So that means, check this out, when folks are looking for jobs, young people are looking for jobs, those agencies are going to have the door wide open. And federal jobs are some good jobs, as we know right here in Hampton Roads and such as well. They're going
Yeah,
to also, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, Guy, and this is good, and we talked about it last time because a lot of people don't associate dealing with climate with the creation of jobs and everything
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
which should make it more of a
plenty
focus.
of jobs.
And everything as far as climate now gets buried in all the other sensational stories with Trump and the things like that. And then when it does come up, people that might have high platforms,
Mhm.
talk against it.
Right.
Rather than letting the science play itself out, or let these the different meetings and things like that, or talk about the jobs that even being concerned about climate control can create. It all, they just talk about, this is not happening and the
Yeah.
science is wrong. And this world is based. I was looking at a video the other day, and it was back in the ancient Greek times, and you
Uh-huh.
had scientists back then. You
Right.
had guys back then
Right.
figuring out, in some primitive ways sometimes,
Right.
but
Uh-huh.
in far advanced for their time,
Right.
figuring out how to do things. So science has been a part of us, throughout our historic existence.
Yeah.
And why would you have people, you know, talking against it? And why we don't have more of a presence on the national scene about climate, especially when you're talking about other things that are associated with it, like jobs.
Yeah. Well, you're spot on. You're spot on. There's no denying the science. Okay, no denying the science at all. That's solid, uh, great foundational basis, scientists from all over the world, constantly using models, constantly using different analytical techniques to show that our weather patterns have changed, which is climate. Weather is short term, climate is long term, and such.
Hmm.
There's definitely been changes in atmospheric temperature over the long term. Definitely been changes in the amount of precipitation. Definitely been changes and increases in the number of severe weather events and the magnitude and frequencies of those and such. The extreme heat. I mean, look at what's happening in Arizona, and look what happened in Texas. Look what happened in Florida. Record number of days of extreme heat. Look what just recently happened out in the Atlantic as well with Hurricane Lee. Hurricane Lee intensified so rapidly. Typically, hurricanes, they intensify, but this one it intensified extremely rapidly due to the large number of due to the large amount of energy in the ocean. From heating. So climate is here with us, even in Hampton Roads.
Hmm.
That we're looking at sea level rise and putting in place putting in place mitigation and adaptation measures as well. To preclude waters from entering our basements every day as well, and the climate can affect. Even if we're away from the coastline, we can still see the effects of climate as it relates to sea level rise. Example, we can have flooding, and that flooding prevents us from gaining access to our places of employment or places of services, etc. So climate, there's no denying it, no denying it whatsoever. We just let them talk the talk, and we're going to keep on, doing what we have to do to keep this planet safe. And at the same time, we want to maximize the benefits to our community as well, making our communities first and foremost, making our communities where we live, like where I live in Cavalier Manor, as resilient as possible against the effects of extreme heat and against the effects of heavy downpours and etc. when it comes to climate. But at the same time, there are co-benefits of this, and we just talked about one here with the American Climate Corps. Great rah rah for the administration, getting our kids into this climate arena, but the jobs as well. Tremendous amount of jobs, paying buku money. I just did a whole webinar on this and such. Around the jobs and such. So these emerging technologies in hydrogen, emerging technologies in offshore wind, emerging technologies in tidal, and small modular nuclear when it comes to energy as well. And then also we have to put in place adaptation and mitigation strategies as well to mitigate against the effects of climate and such. So the jobs are there and they're plentiful. And particularly right here in Hampton Roads. Matter of fact, when I get off this podcast, I'm driving over to the Brock Center, and I'm going to be in an all-day conference about educating suppliers for offshore wind. We're building 172 wind turbines here and such off the coast of Virginia, and we're even trying to expand that beyond that initial allotment and such. Creating thousands of jobs as well. But it's really jobs is one outcome, but we
Hmm.
want to make our communities more just, sustainable, equitable, and resilient for all. That's what we want to do. And you know what? It starts with our youth. It starts in elementary school. The teachers actually adopting climate curriculum, and making it part of their not only science curriculum, but maybe social curriculum as well, and such. It's going to take nonprofits expanding their reaches into underserved communities. Example, we have an opportunity for scientific investigation for communities coming up real shortly called Catch the King Tide and such. And that's how we can take our cell phones here and we can go out and we can take tidal measurements on that day, and that helps scientists to provide different types of adaptation and mitigation measures as well and such. So
But
yes,
yeah,
and,
and one thing about science and what people don't understand, science, their projections are way out. You might have a projection, scientific projection that's in 2050 or 2040,
uh-huh,
because that's important. And a lot of people don't want to or can't see beyond their lifespan, but they don't realize that those projections that science is sharing with us and what could happen if we don't do certain things is going
uh-huh.
to affect the next generation, their kids, their great grandkids, like
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
And a lot of times they stay in that narrow box and say,
Uh-huh.
well, I'm not going to worry about that. I won't even be here. But not thinking that somebody with your genes are going to be here. So that's why science has those long-term projections, because it comes from a whole lot of research and data that's based on previous history,
Right.
and then you can see the changes that are happening.
Uh-huh.
When something is not consistent, when it's consistent, you can say, okay, everything is all right. But when you can see changes, you see ice caps melting that never melted before,
Right.
over thousands of years, and you can
Uh-huh.
see those changes. So that's what we need to be paying attention to.
Right.
And like the whole focus of this is, what about our youth? And you're dead on with talking about training our youth now.
Yeah.
Because maybe we can change the whole mindset
Well, yeah.
of
Oh,
some
yeah.
of the people.
Yeah.
It seems strange that it's one party, basically, not everybody in the party is against climate
Mhm.
conversations or what's going on. And then
Right.
another party, like the Biden administration, is putting through
Yeah.
um policies to help this and get it going. And
Right.
I don't understand it, but politics aside,
Uh-huh.
people just need to pay attention to what science is telling them,
That's right.
and the opportunities
Uh-huh.
that that's you're talking about, that is given us,
That's right.
along with the awareness of what can happen,
That's
still
right.
creating opportunities.
That's right. That, and that's why our community must care about climate. One, because our communities are the most vulnerable communities and such, because they haven't had the investments. They have existing health disparities and existing economic disparities. They don't have the redundancies in infrastructures and such. That they don't have some of the particular preparedness activities going on and a part of their frameworks. They're not really bounded tightly either in terms of community bonding as well, which acts as a measure of resilience. So our communities are vulnerable from a number of perspectives. So when you layer on top of that the stresses of climate and such, our communities don't have those coping mechanisms in place that push back on on, on those stressors. So we're going to see longer recovery times in our communities from a disaster effect, and also we're going to see greater consequences associated with climate as it relates to those communities because of existing vulnerabilities as well and lack of hazards. So one thing that we did around this, I mean, lack of capacity. One thing that we did around this, we got with Georgia Tech, and also also the state of South Carolina, and we actually developed a process called EJ Strong, Environmental Justice Strong, which takes communities like ours here in Capital Manor. It really does a risk assessment. It says, hey, if we had this climate stressor take place, like a hurricane, or a climate stressor take place, like extreme heat, what are the risks? What are the hazards? What are the vulnerabilities? What does the capacity look like? To cope with that sort of impact on our community. So we've actually developed technology around that as well. But we have to we have to get our communities engaged around this, and communities have to lead on this, and i.e., making their homes more energy efficient, such that we're using less energy for our daily uses and such. And the less energy that we use, the less emissions which occur totally, the less
Hmm.
emissions that occur totally, the less impacts on climate as well. So
Yeah.
it starts with us. It starts with us as well.
Yeah.
And quickly, what's going to happen here? We need to make sure that we're not left behind in this uh, climate aggressive push by the
Hmm.
administration as well. Example: some states like Georgia are receiving huge amounts of money to invest in electric vehicles and such. Billions of dollars, not only in federal systems, but also private capital as well, and that's generating all kinds of jobs and such. Example: Ravinia outside of Atlanta is $5.4 billion and such. Hitachi in Savannah and such, is receiving $5.8 billion for EVs. And you talked about earlier the fact that that there's red states and blue states. Well, believe it or not, the red states are receiving more of these federal dollars than some of the blue states and such. But what they're doing is saying, okay, well, this is great job creation monies and such, and they're viewing it through that lens rather than through a lens of climate and such, because
Hmm.
all these actions are for us to mitigate the impacts of climate and such. So whether it be making our homes energy efficiency or driving a new EV and such, all that trails back to the mitigation of climate.
Let me get local since you mentioned Hampton Roads and specifically Portsmouth, and I'm sure a lot of the other cities experience this. As we talk about, who's affected by it, and some individuals, and I always say it's important locally. When you elect your elected officials or you vote for your elected officials locally, it's certain questions you have to ask. There are basic questions that they're always prepared for, but give you an example. Out in Westbury, it was some people that moved out there that when they moved, it wasn't a flood zone. But during
Right,
their tenure, during their time there, because of some circumstances, climate or whatever,
right,
and we talked about the flood mitigation, on our previous shows.
right,
All of a sudden, where they live is declared a flood zone, which
right,
affects their homeowners insurance, or where
right,
they might have to have extra flood insurance, which
right,
is costing them money.
right,
you know so and these are individuals spread out throughout, so those people need to, like you said, they're locally, you need to speak out. And when you going to ask questions of your local officials,
right.
because that federal money trickles down, and you want to know, is that federal money is getting here locally to help us in this climate control? And those are the kind of questions you need to ask your local officials. uh, you know especially if it's affecting you, like that example I just gave.
Uh-huh. You know what? Speaking of federal monies trickling down, uh, federal agencies have reached out to me, have reached out to us, and the Department of Energy and EPA have both set up times to talk to our organization, about our community, about Hampton Roads, and how they can help. So particularly, in cases of where we have ongoing hazards like flooding, etc. How can those federal dollars flow directly to that community? It doesn't have to flow through local government. It can flow directly to that community, and the community take the action necessary to mitigate that. That's what's so promising about this administration approaches. That's what's so promising about Justice 40, because the dollars can flow directly to community-based organizations and such, and they can take the action. We don't need a city council to bicker for 6 weeks about how $100,000 should be spent. Community-based organizations can raise themselves up and say, hey, I want to take that on. Now they have to have the capability and the capacity to do that, and that has to be verified and vetted and things like that. But after that process, the money can flow directly to them.
Yeah, and Gary, I know you have to leave in a little bit, but I have to mention this too. Even money that's trickling down to the localities for infrastructure,
Yeah,
that can be a part of the
yeah,
things that might help
yeah,
flooding issues,
yeah.
because then you get in there fixing the streets, or doing certain things
Uh-huh.
in your infrastructure that might even take away that designation of a flooding zone area,
Oh,
because you came in and did some things in the communities or on the main highways
uh-huh.
that helps or keeps that flooding issue from being an issue.
It takes all sides.
Hmm.
It's going to take state action. It's going to take local action. It's going to take our regional planning authority. It's going to take community-based organizations and such. It's going to take residents, all working together to make sure that we maximize the benefits from these federal dollars, not only federal dollars, but state dollars as well. Because
Hmm.
what's happening is that these dollars are going to you universities. These dollars are going to communities. These dollars are going to state agencies. These dollars are going to local governments. Different batches to do different things. One thing, for instance, that having to do with flooding is the fact that the local released on yesterday was 4.6 billion dollars for tribes and states and local governments to implement climate action plans. So enforcement should have gotten monies to do a climate action plan, and now there's $4.6 billion to implement that plan. Okay, and that implementation means what? Flood mitigation,
Yeah.
as well as well as other climate measures. So it's a matter of us, one, being attentive to what's happening on a national level and engaging, and we do that all day long, every day. What's happening on the state level, you know, as well, and that means meeting with people, engaging with people, and going to conferences and getting on webinars. Just yesterday I had 8 conference calls around this stuff. I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
it's
So it's a lot. It's a lot
it's
going
just a
on.
lot going on.
A lot going on. We just need to get the word out, and we need to just think about
Uh-huh.
what we are leaving. We always think about leaving a legacy for our kids, and
Yeah,
leaving a
yeah,
name, leaving financial wealth for them. But what good is that financial wealth that we might leave for them if their environment is not healthy?
that's right.
If their lifespan is cut short because
That's
of
right.
their environment is not conducive to healthy living.
That's
So,
right.
we have to leave them
Uh-huh.
a safe environment. And,
Right.
and it has to start now because,
Right.
like you said at one point, some things can get to a point of no return.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's why scientific things are projected so far out,
That's right.
because it's giving you the opportunity
That's
to
right.
make these changes. But you can't be here in the present
Uh-huh.
fighting it, like it's not happening, because it's a political pond to play with.
Yeah.
It's, in my opinion, it's nothing to play with
Uh-huh.
about the future. Many of us won't be here, but a
Yeah.
lot of people that carry our genes will, like I
Right.
said.
E-
So
e-
we
e-
need to pay attention to that.
exactly. And quickly here, it's all about sustainability.
Yes.
Sus- Sustainability is using resources in a wise manner today, such that we have resources available for future generations as well. And that's the same thing with climate. Using resources in a wise way. That means our food consumption, our transportation, the way that we heat and cool our homes. Doing that in a wise way, such that our future generation will not have the externalities, will not have the detrimental effects associated with that. Quickly, what we're doing in this space in terms of youth, one, we have a Just Science Scholars Initiative, where we take community and university folk, students. I talked to three groups on yesterday and such, and we give them projects to do around climate. Next thing we have is something called GLOBE, the Global Learning Observation Benefiting the Environment, where we partner with NASA, NOAA, and U.S. Department of State, and we have folks all over the world doing stuff around climate and science and sharing data, doing fun science projects as well. That the next thing we do is that we support science and STEM education whenever and wherever we can. And we've been in that field for about 2 decades now and such. Everything from doing Saturday morning smart academies, which is our science, math, academic reinforcement tutorial programs, all the way through science fairs and doing stuff in the afternoon. It's been science, science, science for almost 2.5 decades, but loved it because it's about getting our kids into climate, into energy, and into great jobs as well. And we have an environmental science program as well that we're gearing up. And lastly, we're putting together a citizen science program
Mhm.
and creating a community-based hub around citizen science in conjunction with the thriving Earth Exchange. So we've been engaging youth for a long period of time, a number of programs and such. Why? Because honestly, we get it. You know, the youth is our future. We got to prepare them, in all kinds of ways, whether it be coaching, mentoring, special exposures and experiences, paying for their college education, special internships, fellowships, etc., and such. It's up to us to ensure that we have youth, which we not only have an earth and a planet and a community ready for tomorrow, but our youth are ready as well.
Well, Dave, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And time is going on, but we're going to have you back next month. And like I said, it's going to be a every month thing, or whenever you feel like you have something to share, let me know and we'll figure that out. And I want people to know that as I was promoting this particular show, I have a picture up there. And that little girl looking out over the river is my granddaughter. And the thing
Love that
is,
picture.
I want her
Love it.
looking out over that river when she's 25. I want that river to be healthy. I want all the wildlife around there to be able to exist.
Right.
And when she's 30 and when she's 50, I want that river to still be healthy and not filled with toxins and things like that. So that's my granddaughter Zuri looking out over that river. So that picture speaks volumes,
It certainly does.
as far as our future for our youth.
Sure.
So thanks a
Well,
lot, Gary. I
hey,
appreciate you. And thanks everybody else for listening to Portsmouth, I mean, not Portsmouth Coffee Talk, but listening to the Slim Nations One-on-Ones
certainly.
podcast with my friend Garry Harris. Take care.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All
Excited?
right.
Let's make it.